I'm Molly from group number 4. I'm just going to talk about some of the new technologies that we used, digital technology, to create our music video, the Digipack and the magazine advert. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the Canon camera. So it's the DSLR Canon EOS 650D camera. So this is a very good quality camera, and it never comes with the lens on the front actually. See that yourself. But I understand because they're just trying to protect it. So this is the camera that we used to make our music video. And we combine this a lot with the use of the tripod, especially when we were taking stills to use for the Digipack, because we were able to do a high angle shot, which we use quite a lot actually with the Digipack. So with the camera, obviously you can change the focus. This was one of the issues that we encountered as we were filming, because something that we were unaware of was that you set it to focus manually and then you change the focus yourself so that it's of a good quality when you're filming. But we weren't aware of that, so what we ended up doing was we let it do the automatic focus, because we thought the camera will kind of change the focus depending on the lighting and how far away the object is, I suppose, that we're filming, and that will be the best decision. But what happened was, especially when we were filming in the drama room where it was all dark and we were changing the lighting settings quite a lot, the camera focused and then it would refocus itself again. So a lot of our film would be of bad quality, because as it focuses it kind of gets a little bit grainy. So we had to edit out quite a lot of the not so good shots. It has a screen like this. So this is quite good as you're filming, because you can see on the screen how it would appear if I was going to upload this onto a computer and watch it from there, whereas just having to upload it on the computer and then watch it afterwards, where you may realise that you need to film it again, you can watch it there and then on the screen, so it's like instant feedback. What I also like about the screen is how you can turn it the other way, so you can turn it this way, and this is useful particularly if you're filming yourself or if everyone is in the shot, because then as you're filming you can see it on the screen as well. So this was useful for us when we had the shots where the artist was with the green screen and she was walking past the camera and then walking the other way past the camera as she was singing. And sometimes what we found was that when we turned the screen around, she could then see if she was still in the shot or if she was out of the shot, and then she kind of be able to judge the timing better in her head about when she needed to come off the camera. It comes with a bag, it's like a backpack type thing, and it's actually quite comfortable to wear, so it was quite easy to transport it, and it's got all sorts of compartments on here. Well, the camera was in there, and what's quite useful about this is it's quite big, as you can see, and we used to put our storyboard in there as well, so that was just nice to be able to have that with us, so we could kind of have an indication of what we had to do or what we wanted it to look like. The other thing with this is that it comes with a charger, which is useful, and then it also comes with this light attachment. Another feature about filming is that that you have lighting, so what was quite good with this was we could attach the light here on the camera, and that would just be easy to transport with you and just convenient really. The other lighting that we used though was some lights in the drama room that we were using, and they were very useful because they were fantastic. And they were quite big lights as well, and because of the filters we were able to change what colour we wanted it, so to suit the lyrics that the artist was singing, so we quite like that. And there were also lights when we filmed the green screen in the media classroom that we used, similar to the one in the drama room. When we were in public, so when we were having to film for the montage that we did when they were tearing up the paper, we used this one because that was just really easy to transport. One of the shots we had was in the dark, and it was against some of the lockers in the school, and we just, because it was so dark there, we thought it might be quite effective to have a shot where we used this light to focus on the person, so that had like a nice effect which suited the song and the kind of concept that we were going for with the video. The good thing about the camera is obviously the quality was fantastic, much better than the camera that we used last year for the Thriller. And then of course, because of the good quality of the camera, we were able to take shots to use for the Digipack and for the poster, and we were able to kind of take our time really with how we wanted to focus the camera and at what angle we wanted it at and how close or far away we wanted So the other good thing about the camera is the compatibility that it has with the Macs that we're using at school. And rather than with the cameras last year where we had to connect it with a wire to the computers, we can actually take out the memory card, and there's a slot then in the computer that you can use to put the memory card in, which was incredibly useful because it made it really quite quick when we were having to import film to then edit. So that really helped with terms of our editing as well as the production. One negative thing though about both the Flip and the Canon is to do with the charge and the battery. A lot of our filming took place in school for reasons of convenience within our lesson time, and the issue with that was that we were always having to film because there were certain times that we had the rooms allocated for, there were lessons or people had to use them next, so we were always aware that we were going to have to leave the room. With the camera it would be on low battery and we'd be aware that we needed to charge it, but then at the same time we also needed to use it for filming. I suppose in a way we just had to work with our organisation really to get that right. We had to remember to charge it the night before, but then especially with the Flips, because these are used by other students as well, and we didn't take these home at all. And what happened was a lot of the time these were on low battery, and that was quite inconvenient. We were having to look through them all and find one, first of all, that had enough battery while we were filming, especially if we made mistakes and we had to then come back and film stuff later. In post-production, to edit our music video, we used iMovie. This is an editing software. We used it on the Mac. When we started off doing this, we would upload our raw footage. It's just basically what we have filmed directly from the camera, and then what we would do is we would then edit this, so we'd cut out the parts that we didn't need, so it would have continuity really. We'd make sure we had some straight cuts from the different parts. So if I compare that to, this has been edited, so this isn't raw footage, this is some footage that we have actually done something with, and this is the montage that we've got. And these transitions here, these are just for the purpose of the presentation of this video. These didn't actually appear in our final music video at all. For example, this person here, he rips the paper up, but what we did is we obviously cut that out for the actual music video. We included a track, so how we did that is we would find iTunes on here, so I'm going to find it in applications. So first of all you need to make sure that you actually have the song in your library on iTunes so that you can select it and add it into iMovie. So as you can see here, we've downloaded the song, and what we did is if I wanted to add this to the footage that I filmed, we would just select it and drag it to iMovie, and then we would drop it here and it would just turn up here. So this would be the song playing over the footage. So all that meant is for all of our footage that we filmed, we then had to minimise the audio so that you would only hear the song. This made it even more important with things like lip syncing, because it had to be exactly to the song, otherwise it would just look as though our artist wasn't singing the song at all. So that actually kind of helped when it came to editing and post-production with having the song here. This gave us an indication of the duration of the entire song, and then we would just edit the footage that we had so that it looked as though the point at which she mouthed the words was when they were being sung in the song itself. For some of our camera shots, we were told they were a little bit shaky. But what we were then able to do was we were able to stabilise this shot. So if I went to clip adjustments and I clicked stabilisation, we were then able to make the shot look less shaky, which was quite important for us because it was convenient that we didn't have to refilm these sections. So I'm not going to have this on 129, because what happens is the more stabilised it is, the more it zooms in, and then we have the issue of cutting off someone's head. So I'm going to keep it on this one. But you'll just see the difference that it makes at the end of the shot. Another issue that we realised with uploading to iMovie anyway was that the heads were cut off. So as you can see here in these shots, you can see the person's head, but when it actually appears on the right hand screen here, the heads are cut off. So what we did, or what we noticed pretty much after our off cut, and we had feedback, and somebody said the heads were cut off, which we really appreciated, because then we went to cropping and rotation, and what we realised was if you allowed black, this area, you could then see the whole shot of the person, which we felt was slightly more professional than having the heads cut off, which was an error. Obviously we had to refilm certain parts of our video, and because everything was in time and in sync beforehand, adding in those parts made the audio slightly out of sync with our lip syncing. So what we had to do was take off things by fractions of seconds in order for it to be in sync again, and that is so easy with iMovie. Anything in yellow is what you are going to edit, so we could either drag off this 1 point of a second, or what we tended to do, so we didn't make any mistakes first time, is we would select the clip and then we would split the clip before we deleted it, so we could check that that was the right section that we wanted to delete. If you want to take off, for example, fractions of seconds in the middle, so an example of that I've actually got is, and what happened with this shot was halfway through the camera went out of focus as our artist dropped the paper. So what happened was there was a part of the film that we couldn't use in our music video because it had gone slightly out of focus, which we didn't like. It doesn't look professional at all. So it doesn't make it convincing as a media product. So what we did was I paused it just there, and then I split the clip from here to here where it comes back in focus, and then it resumes as she drops the paper. So that helped us definitely by splitting the clip if there are certain parts in the middle that you want to edit. So if you want to delete them, or if you want to add an effect, and you can add effects, if you click on this icon here and you click to clip adjustments, you can add video effects. So we can change, for example, these here. We didn't use any of these. One of the ideas I had was to use an X-ray, because you were able to see the details on the picture easier, but obviously this does not promote the artist. It doesn't look right with the video, so we decided not to do this after all. The other thing that you can do with iMovie is green screen. We imported our footage either from the camera or from Photo Booth, but typically we filmed with the camera for our music video, and Photo Booth was used for our audience feedback. So we'd import it from the camera, and then it would appear here under New Events, and then we would select the footage that we wanted to use. And with the green screen, what you would do is you would drag, for example, we would select a clip, and you put here what you want to be your background, and then this would be what you want to come over the top of it, and you would drag it onto there, and it will come up with a list of options here. And if this happens to be green screen, I would click green screen, and then it just looks like that basically. But what would happen is, if that had been a green screen behind Chloe, then see her over the top of the backdrop. So that's just a demonstration of how that would have worked. And the other thing that we used iMovie for, in terms of our audience feedback, picture-in-picture, so if we had our audience talking here about the music video, we could then upload, or we could drag a section of the video. So for example, if they were talking about this scene with the panning, I could then select the pan, and I would then drag it onto the clip where they're talking about it, and I would do picture-in-picture. And then you can just move this about, so as they're talking about it, this would come up, which it just makes your audience feedback look a lot more interesting. Or the other thing that you can do, and we actually did this in our music video, was we had at one point a clip of the girl and the boy at the same time. So what we did, because we wanted this to be a split screen, we used side by side. So, and that was quite interesting, because we did that in terms of the narrative. We were trying to convey the story, which was that they had now separated. So that just showed our storyline. through the use of editing. So this is our final advert, but we went through quite a few stages to get it to look like this. One of the other programs that we used to edit our advert was Photoshop, and this is how we managed to edit this picture here, because this picture here, we faced a decision where we weren't quite sure which picture to use. So it was either this one or this one, and with this one I feel like it makes the Tawn look more 3D. You can definitely see that it's at an angle. But we ended up choosing this one simply because the posture of the singer, she looks better, and you can't see as much of this in the background, so it would be easier to edit all of that out, because we didn't want that in the final photo. But then, I know, I just like the lighting in this and how it looks, the quality is much better, so we had to use Photoshop to make this look like it had better quality. You can place an image, yeah, it's always place an image, a bit different to insert, which makes it a little bit difficult to work with at first, because obviously it's different to anything else that we've used. And then you can just try these. So for example, one that particularly amuses me is this one. What we would then do is we would go on to filter, and you can change quite a lot with this. So one of our main ones was lighting, which I believe comes underneath render. And with the lighting we could change the intensity of the lighting, so if we wanted it to be brighter and more focused, and then that makes the lighting look like it's coming from a certain point. So we had ours quite a wide beam, I believe, and then you can then alter it that way, which is very bright, or that way, because we were obviously trying to improve the quality of our photo. So I believe ours ended up something a bit like this. We then placed all this text in, and originally we had featuring the hit single Tawn up here, and Isabel's name was at the bottom. This was one of the things that we originally came up with. We had that there, and then we changed it, and then of course we added these reviews to make it look a little bit more like it was actually a poster. Another important thing that you may have realised is how I've got these images here, and how I did that was by using a tool called Grab, which is basically the version of print screen but on a Mac. So it works by going into applications and then utilities, and so it's a bit more long-winded, but the good thing about Grab is that if I want to capture something, unlike print screen where you get a picture of the entire screen and then you have to trim it, you can just simply grab this section here, and then I don't have to trim that down. That's done for me. So that is one of the good things about using Grab. And that was particularly useful for our construction posts, where we were having to show how we got to our final poster, and we were able to show a series of the shots that we'd grabbed of how we've manipulated the images as well. Inside our digipack we have the words Tawn, we have these letters here, so we started off with something like this, and then we edited it to look like this using the wizard tool on Photoshop, which we were quite happy with. However, one of the interesting things is that we used Firework to create our digipack, because we had some issues with the sizing on InDesign to get it the right length that we wanted it, so we just used Fireworks because we felt like it would be easier. Very similar program, so it worked more or less the same way. Unlike InDesign, where you have to open the images onto Photoshop and manipulate them there, Firework, very similar to Photoshop, you can edit the images on directly using Firework. The other thing we decided to make was a booklet, and what we used, because this picture is different than the one that is actually featured on the digipack, so the picture that we have got on the digipack is this one here, I believe. But we edited it to look a bit more like this, and what we used was different clouds, I believe it's called, and lens flare. And the interesting with the lens, no, maybe it's lens glare, but anyway, the interesting thing with that was that where the beam shone through just happens to be on the O, so we had to keep that there. And we've got Isabel's name at the bottom, and we've got a similar picture on the back than the one that is actually on the digipack. This one is where she's turned away, so I felt like that was a slight variation that we kind of needed because we used virtually the same pictures just over and over again. And then these ones we actually took for the sole purpose of using inside the digipack and in the booklet, because in the actual video we make the word using these bits of newspaper, but for example all of how this newspaper has made this, that had to produce all 4 letters. So we separately just took pictures of using all the newspaper to make 1 letter at a time, so that we could then use those for the inside of here. So I quite like that. I feel like it works quite well with the actual digipack itself. So the way that I have made this would be the front and that'll be the back, so these would fold, and then this would be directly behind this as the first page, and that would be the last page behind that one. So you could print this off and make the booklet basically. And this is just an acknowledgement from the artist, because we noticed that that is a convention of pop albums in particular. And then we've got some lyrics here. We just chose other popular songs and put the lyrics in here. So we've got a shot here of, this is how we shot the performance scenes using a stage in the drama room. If you highlight the text, you can then just change the colours here, so now it's white, and then if you went the other way it would have gone black. So that was how we managed to get this text here white, depending on what the background was for the picture. You can change the colour to whatever you would like. You can change it to these here, and then even from this, for example, you can just change these settings so that you can make your own colours basically. So this is how dark it is. So that's quite interesting, but we weren't too confident with that. So we used that while we were experimenting with colours, but mainly we just decided to stick to simplistic colours such as black and white, because they related quite a lot to our music video, how we had quite dark lighting in some places and how Isabel was dressed with a black dress on, and then the guitarist is dressed in black and white too. So this is actually a shot of how we arranged the letters on the table. So although you can't see that very clearly, that's just a behind the scenes picture. And we've got another one as well. This is the heart that we had to draw. It took more than one go actually, because we wanted it to look pretty good, because that was a theme that was going to appear in the music video. With some of these pictures we had more than one option, so we've got 3 different options of the same photo that we had to choose from, because we just wanted to experiment with the different effects on Photoshop. Then the other thing we did, this is quite interesting actually, is, well, you can see here, without the lyrics here, because this was one of our initial screen grabs, so this is just it in order basically. That's the order of how they would have appeared. What we actually ended up with, we decided to produce it in this way, because if you printed it out, this is something similar of how it would have looked.